I don't see Africa in the same way that you see it. And I'm not going to see it that way. I'm going to see, if you ask me to come back, are you asking me to see it the same way that you see it? Because I'm not going to see it that way. I'm going to see it based on merit. I don't care what tribe you're from. That don't matter to me. I don't care if you Ankole or if you're a Choli or if you're from Buganda. Can the person swing the bat?
Hi guys, welcome to Kenganda. My name is Janita Maya and this is the REPAT podcast. I'll let my co-hosts introduce themselves.
Yes, indeed, Master Gabs. Happy to be here, and I'm loving your new hairstyle, John.
Oh,
looks
thank
great.
you so much.
Yeah, look at your hair.
Yeah.
Look at your hair.
Wow, thank you so much.
I like it.
Well, thank you,
it.
Gabs. Thank you for the compliment.
Indeed.
Thank you.
I used to have hair like that, but age brings about a change. Shout out to St. Louis with the hair. O'Shea Duke Jackson.
What your hair did.
African American.
Yeah.
Let's get into it.
Okay, so we have a WhatsApp group and we were chatting there. O'Shea shared a comment from one of our videos and the comment said, I'm African living in America and I can tell you all for a fact, Africans in positions of authority seem to enjoy overestimating their importance in those positions. They will tell you to come back tomorrow for something they can do right now, there and then. I hate that to the core. Also, they complicate simple processes. And then the boss man himself went ahead to comment, all the private sector does is try to make you beg and run after them for no fucking reason. O'Shea.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest about that. And we had Dr. Ronald Neal, PhD. He brought a beautiful topic called Pan-Africanism without Romanticism. And we need to have a serious conversation about, romanticizing Africa, because what is typically romanticized about Africa is Wakanda, when that movie came out, what's the name of Black Panther?
Yeah.
And, things like that, there's no white people, no white supremacy, there's no ceiling. And then one of the things that's very incentivized for the diaspora is that there are so many business opportunities in Africa. So that's what is really sold to the diaspora. We have people like Dr. Harnett. She does an excellent job. I believe that from what I've heard, she's the best person on the topic. So a lot of people, even Ugandan Americans, Nigerian Americans, people in the diaspora who are a little bit more in touch with the opportunities such as agave, vanilla farming, and things that we don't know anything about. They understand the opportunities in Africa. But when we think about that, we're thinking about it with an American mind. We're thinking about an American style opportunity in Africa with American or a lack of bureaucracy that we see in America. And America is really good in the private sector because you don't have so much bureaucracy in doing business. Mm-hmm. That's why Forbes has that list, ease of what? Doing business. Mm-hmm. And every time you're going to see African countries toward the bottom, except for Rwanda. So now we romanticize these economic opportunities in Africa. They are here. But what we don't talk about is a lot of the shit in the game in those opportunities. And the opportunity is only there if you can maximize it. But then we don't talk about middlemen. We don't talk about bureaucracy. We don't talk about corruption. And then we also have this idea that, when you come to Africa, this is not your country. You are a foreigner here. So those people who live here run things and they can open or shut doors for you. That's even for me, anybody else. But we don't talk about even that if you have money, it's hard to get things done because somebody, there's a culture of once people in power in the private sector, I'm not saying this is all, but many that I've met, they want you to beg them. And it's things that they can do that might even take you 30 seconds to do. But then they will make you come back the next day or call me back or play those games. You can be extremely qualified. You can do things for free. In the diaspora, when you're out here alone and you don't have a lot of backing behind you and you're trying to integrate here, they can slow you down. And they will slow you down. We're going to be honest about this. Yeah, there are some good people here that won't. But in my honest opinion, from what I've seen here, I can speak from my own experience, they will slow you down. And we need to have a honest conversation about romanticizing business opportunities in Africa. I'm going to let Agaba build this up because he has more experience than me. But there is a lot of stymieing, stopping progress, holding you back. And that's not always talked about in any business discussion about how that happens, how slow things work, and how people will promise to do things for you. Even if you're independent, you don't need their money, you're going to get held back too. So we want to have an honest discussion about that. And Nagaba, he's been here since 2011 again. I'm going to let him talk about it and see what we can learn from it. Am I wrong or?
No, you're definitely not wrong. I think your experience is unique to you, but also at the same time, it is an experience that many people have shared.
Okay.
And there are a lot of the dynamics that you talked about in terms of people being able to play gatekeeper.
Okay.
Right? If somebody finds you somebody that they want to support,
yep,
and if they have a personal investment in supporting you, then they can move heaven and earth and make things happen for you very simply.
Oh, yeah.
Very easily. We've seen that happen many a time, but also similarly, on the flip side of the coin, you can have somebody who just doesn't seem to be bothered by what your agenda is, no matter how clearly beneficial it is
oh my God.
to a larger group of stakeholders. If they personally don't see the value in what it is that you're doing, then they can stand in the way, or they can personally become a roadblock to you achieving what it is that you want to do. I've recently gotten in trouble for making general statements.
Yes.
For painting my people with a broad brush. So I'll try not to do that today. But what I'll say is this, based off of my experience, I think it is very important to recognize that people in power positions, from what I've seen, from what I've observed, are largely looking at it from the perspective of, okay, so I'm asked to do a job.
Yes.
But is just simply doing my job enough for me? Does it satisfy me or personally fulfill me enough? Because, I mean, a lot of the time people are underpaid.
Okay.
Right? Underpaid, under-resourced. So you might find it that just doing the job and making this happen, or facilitating this to happen on behalf of another person, just doing my job, while yes, I'm checking the box and saying yes, I've done a good job, but does that fulfill me as an individual enough to say that was enough done, right? When I was in business school, shout out to the Penn State Smith College of Business, and Dr. Andy Gustafson in specific coined a phrase, the WITHM. What's in it for me? And whenever you're making a business case or whenever you're making a presentation to an audience, in our communications class, one of the hooks was that whenever you're presenting something to somebody, you need to consider your audience, what's in it for them? What's the WITHM for that person? What is going to make that person listen to you and make them want to take action? So I think in a lot of these cases, what we see is people are asking the question, not directly, but they're asking, what's in it for me?
Okay.
What's in it for me? To take these extra 5 minutes to help you out when I could just tell you to come back tomorrow, because that's what's easier for me, right? To stay sitting at my desk. You know, sometimes you see stuff like, I'm trying to get into a bank branch and the bank hours are listed that the bank branch closes at 4:00 and at 3:50 the doors are locked. And you're rushing and you're like, yo, tap on the door. What can I do to get in? You're begging people to get into the bank branch because you have to transact something. And they're like, no, we're closed. And I'm like, yo, it won't rob you of your soul or your spirit to spend 5 minutes helping me out. But then the question is, what's in it for me? So when a person, as I've observed, and this goes for people that I work with, people that I have encountered as kind of counterparts in business negotiations, and people that I haven't necessarily even done business with, but I just recognize this as a general trend. When somebody reaches a position of authority or power where they can stop or prevent somebody from being able to achieve something, it becomes kind of a natural instinct to think, how can I milk this to the maximum of my personal benefit?
Okay.
How can I extract as much personal benefit from this as I can? Because chances are I won't be in this role for very long.
Oh my God.
And so I need to benefit from this as much as I possibly can in the time that I have the opportunity to do so. If I'm a decision maker in an institution where I'm granting people contracts,
Okay.
what is it that's in it for me
Come on now.
that will allow me to unlock and put my signature on that thing to get that person that contract?
Okay.
If I'm dealing with an O'Shea Duke Jackson and he wants to, facilitate so much publicity around coming to Uganda, traveling, visiting, promoting Ugandan tourism, not really because it's anything other than what he loves to do.
Okay.
Because it's his platform. It's Kenganda. It's what we do. But if I'm looking at O'Shea, I'm not looking at O'Shea with an altruistic spirit to say, man, you know what, my guy, you're the man we've been looking for. So let me just move everything out of the way and eliminate every roadblock. A right-thinking person, you would think that they would want to do that. But instead, somebody's looking at O'Shea like, okay, how can I maximize my personal benefit?
Preach.
To take away something like this.
Preach.
So I think that's a lot of maybe what that individual who posted that message in the chat was referring to.
Yeah.
When you talk about people in power positions, the power that I feel in my life may only exist when I'm sitting behind that desk. When I leave that office or when I leave that position, I may not feel as powerful in the other 360 degrees of my life. In the other, let's say I'm sitting behind that desk for 8 hours a day. In the other 16 hours of the day, I may not feel that same power. I may not be validated by the same respect that people give me behind that desk. So I have to squeeze as much as I possibly can to benefit myself and also to make my image of self feel like I matter in this grand system of things. That's kind of how I've reconciled myself to see it. I know not everybody feels the same way and not everybody applies that logic, but that's just me kind of trying to put myself in their position. Okay, what is it that this person wants?
Right.
Can I give this person an opportunity to get a little bit closer to what they want in order for them to facilitate me getting what I want? Sometimes it involves bribes. Sometimes it involves other types of stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of the time, in fact, it involves bribes and other types of stuff and other types of behavior that would compromise one's ethics if they're trying to be an upstanding business person. But, we all play the game. And it's frustrating as hell to know that when you have that thing which would benefit so many people, there's one jerk, joker, idiot standing in your way. Just because they want to benefit personally off of this. But man, it just happens, and it happens so much.
Yeah.
And I kind of try to understand, but man,
It's infuriating.
it's tough. It's frustrating as hell. And I'm really trying hard not to bash my people. I'm really trying hard not to bash my people. So no, but I mean, it kind of is what it is because it's also the way that the system works. Remember?
Yes.
People who are in positions of power now, I mean, we can refer to somebody in their late 20s, early 30s who's feeling the swell of ego, feeling the swell of importance that is artificially created by a system that they have entered. They didn't create the system. They're just figuring out how to operate within it and how to live and thrive and survive within that system. So, like I said, I'm trying to give those people grace to kind of understand. I mean, I myself also, if you think about it on the flip side, being a decision maker is not easy because you have so many people coming to you with requests that are just stacked up with ridiculousness.
Preach.
I don't want to say that everybody's request is some shit, but you do get, forced to deal with so much stuff. So it's like, can I prioritize everything? Probably not. So when you start to just by default dismiss stuff, you'll have that 1 out of 10, which is that brilliant idea, that brilliant business person, or that brilliant co-collaborator, or that opportunity that you just shouldn't be ignoring, and it'll get lumped in with the rest because I'm used to hearing so much stuff that just doesn't inspire me or spark my attention to want to do the right thing, that when I do, my vision is blurred a little bit. So I don't know. Maybe that's a perspective to think about.
It's a better perspective. I couldn't have put it. Like I said, God was the best person on the podcast. Go ahead. Sorry, Joan.
It's okay. It's fine. I've been doing this for a long time. Anyway. So there's a saying in Uganda, we say for God and my country. Sorry, for God. The thing is, our motto is for God and my country.
Yeah.
But when you are in the public sector, it's for God and my stomach. And I say that, and you guys, I thought it was a common thing. I thought everyone knew this. That's the thing. Because when we were learning about corruption in school and whatnot, that's what they told us. Like, these people are corrupt, and this is their motto, for God and my stomach. They're going to look out for themselves. They're going to do what's best for them and their immediate family.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not about you. It's not what you can do for them. It's not about the change you can bring. It's not about what you're trying to do that can change the economy, the sector, or whatever. It's about them and what they can get from you. I did intern at the local district level. I did intern in the procurement department. So what they do is you have bidders. People come in and say, we can do roads, whatnot. So you bid and try to see if you can get the bid. So what they would do, I'm exposing someone. But what would happen? But what would happen is it wasn't about who was the best service provider. It was about who was the service provider that had a relationship with this person, that knew this person, that had given him something, a little soda on the side. You know what they say? So that's what it was all about. It wasn't about, I can do this. I can save the government this amount of money. I can help out with this. I can build you better roads. No, it was all about, have you talked to the person at the top? Do you have a connection? Has the person who is at the supervisor of the other person at the top also talked to him? Because sometimes that could happen. Even though you had a head of department, if his boss came to him and said, hey, this company, you need to put it among the top 5. Because on paper, it needs to look like they went through the process to get the bid. So you see how the whole process is. It's already rigged from the beginning.
Yes.
And that's like, it's a small district. So imagine the corruption in small districts. Now imagine what could be in the city center, or imagine in bigger districts and whatnot. So that's the public sector. And I think the other thing that I've also noticed in the public sector is the level of bureaucracy. But let me tell you something. One thing about them is they try not to do all their work at once. I don't know if I'm making sense. So like if you tell me, hey, I need you to do A, B, C, D, I can't do A, B, C, D because then in one day, because then what am I going to do on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday? I need to spread it out to look like I'm working in the office, to look like I'm doing something. It doesn't make sense for you to come with a request and then I finish it. And that means I'm going to be bored. I won't have something to do, or my boss is going to show up and whatnot. So that's what most people in the private sector try to do. They'll spread out certain work. It can even take months. He decides, he decides when he wants to complete this work so that he can say, for this time period, I worked on this project. But that project could have taken a day and a half at most.
Yeah.
So something like that does happen. With the private sector, I do feel like some policies and tendencies from the public sector spill over to the private sector because most people in the private sector have been in the public sector. So even though they leave the public sector and want to do better, they still have those mannerisms and those habits that they've picked up from the public sector that they still take with them to the private sector. But yeah, Rachel.
Well, I feel like this is an experience, or these are experiences like they're echoed in many countries across the continent. Yeah, for both nationals and returnees or repats. Like Oshe in Uganda, I'm very sure he's experienced.
Oh yeah,
his experiences, and I want to think it's a feeling that has a logo of merit on the surface. But if we dig deeper, you'll find that I believe it comes down to mentality, because most of the people lack a unified national interest. And while it's the type, I agree with the behavior. I agree with this type of behavior, but that many of us have experienced, and it's so inefficient, it's time consuming, it's really frustrating. But me, I want to look at it as something that has to do with the education system. If you look at, I would want to look at nations like Japan, We know it's known for what is it? Japan known for? It's known for
The polite.
Sony, Canon,
exactly. But
Nissan,
Samsung.
Honda, Toyota, Lexus,
the people who have visited
Mitsubishi,
Japan, they will
Fujifilm.
tell you like their experience with customer care is first hand. Like
Yeah.
the way they welcome you, and then the way they greet you, then the way they do things, like they keep time. I don't think that's something that they learn as adults. I feel like that's something. Now, when I talk about education system, we all know it starts from home. It's instilled right from home. So by the time a kid goes to school, some of them go late, some of them go early. By the time you go to school, like you're already shaped. You have a certain mind shape that you've been shaped into. And then the school, now that's where it shapes you into the type of person you're going to be. That's why they teach in I think ours things like Japan. They teach about this whole thing of nationalism and all those, patriotism and all those other things. Now, when you come to Africa and our education system, it's a big problem. Like most times we learn of things that are not even important. Things that are not preparing us for the economic world. Things that are more like, I just want to finish school, go, maybe get a job, and it's going to be me. I'm not serving people. I am serving me. I have experienced this in, well, if they shoot me.
No.
But yeah, like
They
most
won't.
people have experienced
Well,
this
your face not on here yet.
when I was getting my passport, like the first time. So someone messed up somewhere, and then they go ahead to tell me how, because then I was demanding for it. I had not gotten it, and we had gone into another financial year. So I was demanding for it, and this official who was in this position, who is supposed to help me like get it, is explaining how they're now into another financial year. So whatever I had paid was in the previous financial year, I can't get it. And I'm asking, why did I did the interview? You gave me the slip to pick the passport. So what happened? And they're telling me how the system had issues. So like it was made my problem, not their problem. So I had to pay another money to renew the passport. So that's double payment. But the attitude with which this person did it, it's like they were not serving, because you're paying for this passport. It's not even for free. You understand? So the attitude with which they did it was more like, whether you pay or not, I'll still get the salary. Because you need the passport. So it's not like serving a national, because you're in a government office. You're supposed to serve me as me. But going back to all that, this whole attitude, and it's ingrained. So the root cause for me, it's the education system.
I also want to say something, girls.
Yeah, go ahead.
Before you say something, I would actually love to disagree with Rachel. Is it the education system? Because when you look at a typical Ugandan school, you have to be up on time. Cleanliness is a must. Your shoes have to be, they have to look great, right? You have to tuck in. You have to be on your best behavior. So I feel like most schools try to instill some sort of ethical behavior. It's when the kids get out that they mingle with the others. They go off track.
They do, but when you look at the education system, because it does shape mentality for so many like nations or even people, it does shape that mentality in you of whether business people, employees, or just citizens. Wherever you end up, whether in private sector or in government institutions.
I get it. I get what you're saying. But what I'm also trying to get, I have a young brother, and his school, that they're not only strict on students, they're strict on the parents. So the parents can't dress a certain way. You can't show up on a certain way.
What you're talking about are things that are requirements for being in the school, but what you're probably missing is once that student comes out, is that student is that school making that person more productive for the private sector?
Oh.
Despite the being on time, being clean.
Oh.
That's nice.
Well, that makes
The
sense.
military will be on time,
Oh yeah.
but are they as good as they could be? What we're talking about now is how productive is that person in the private sector, and does the institution talk to the private sector to make that person valuable for the private sector after doing all of that? Because if you're going to be on time and do that and and he said he's educated, how does that translate to the development of this country? And that's what we're challenging here. Is does that change the systems of development such that you can say Uganda is as productive as the Netherlands or as Japan? And right now, clearly, we can see this isn't the case.
Yeah.
So even you're going through those steps, it needs to translate, and it's not. So that's what we're talking about.
That makes sense. I get it now. Gabs, you're gonna say something.
I kind of forgot what I was going to say, but no, Rachel, when you were referring to the Japanese culture, right? I was thinking of the right word. So I had to make sure that Google it to make sure that I had the right word. So the word that I learned a long time ago was kaizen. And in Japanese, kaizen basically means a cycle of continuous improvement. So if you think about auto manufacturers, the technology industry, and all of these things, just from generation to generation to generation, the improvement has been exponential. The growth in the quality of technology has increased exponentially over the last 5 years than what it did over the previous 50 years.
Right.
And so I agree with you in that when we think about our education system, is it based on a cycle of continuous improvement?
No.
And, John, to your point, I think when we have students that go to school, well groomed and maintained, but then these are the same students that show up to the office with unshined shoes, unshined shirts, unironed shirts, lacking deodorant. Personal hygiene is mad suspect. You know what I mean? So it's like once you leave school, to O'Shea's point, what lessons stuck with you?
Oh, okay.
What lessons became part of your DNA? And I think if we refer back to previous conversations where we've had, questions about our education system and how it's long on theory, great at making you prepared for passing exams, but in terms of the practical application of the knowledge, how ready are you to enter the real world to do so?
Right.
I also think that a lot of the time, we overlook the fact that not a lot of organizations in Uganda promote people based on merit. Not a lot of the people that are in positions of merit got there because, in positions of authority are there because strictly based on merit.
Right.
More than likely they're there because of relationships that they had, friendships that they have established, familial bonds. Nepotism is a very real thing. And there's a lot of politicking that goes on behind the scenes to position yourself in that position of influence, because now if Joan is in that position of influence and she's an ethical individual and she's not going to sign off on a lot of the foolery that happens behind the scenes, she probably isn't going to benefit the majority of us who would like for somebody with a questionable moral compass to be in that role. Therefore, let's put Jane in that role, and Joan will just have to toil away in obscurity with her ethics intact, right? My old man used to tell me a long time about when he was running East African Development Bank, how people used to come to him with instructions from the president to present a proposal, a paper for financing and things of that nature for this project or that project. And he would simply sit down with them and ask them the academic questions about the viability of their project ABC 1, 2, 3. When their project seemed not to be worthy to achieve the financing that his bank was asked to offer them, they would go back and be like, yo, what's up with this guy? He's not about forward progress. He's not about development. And it's like, you didn't come here for my advice about the viability of your project. You came here expecting me to just be a operative because so-and-so with authority.
A crony.
You expected me to be a crony. I'm not a crony.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And people who aren't cronies have a limited shelf life.
Yeah,
right?
okay.
People who aren't cronies don't earn as much. People who aren't cronies don't go as far, because I don't have use for you if you're not a crony.
Right.
right? You're not useful to me. You're not useful to the system that exists if you're not a crony. So I think a lot of that cronyism that happens is to blame for it. I think a lot of what we talk about in terms of people feeling like they're powerful enough to sway the fortunes of entire industries. I'm powerful enough to sway this is it. This is my last gasp attempt at being somebody who's powerful. So, I like the notion of being able to think about, our country from the perspective of, let's level the playing field. Let's let the merits lie where they are, and let's let people become who they are based solely off of what they can offer and what they have to achieve. But that's not going to be the case. So, the question for you now, O'Shea, is knowing what you know now and having experienced what you have over the last, half decade plus, where do you go in terms of seeking those types of relationships? Where do you go in terms of seeking those types of affiliations that you need to get by in this country?
Okay.
Are you now prepared to play the game a little bit more, or are you now firmly planted in your ethic of saying, you know what, this, I'm not doing that?
It's going to be answer B. Storytime music. Flashback. November 2022. Me and Rachel, because whenever I go somewhere in Africa or out of the country, Rachel always comes with me, except for the Dubai trip because, it has some things to do out there. But Rachel will always travel with me. Here comes somebody that is a bald guy who recognizes me. I mean, I am talented, right? I'm looking at this, I'm like, who the is this guy? And the guy is telling me things about myself I've mentioned before. He's talking about the podcast, things like that. So I'm like, okay, here's he's American guy, American accent, it's detectable. So we fly to Rwanda. Okay, here's this Negro, whatever, cool, nice to meet you. DJ Maintain calls me one day in November after the episode with Sukali. He says, man, hey, there's this guy that, he's known here. I think he said he knows you. He wants to come to the podcast. So I called the guy because the guy's messaging me too. He's like, yo, man, he messaged me one time. He's like, yo, man, I want to come to the podcast. I met you before. So I called the guy. We have a very uncomfortable conversation the first time. He comes on the Kevin Samuels episode, It's Agaba. Now that was February. This is July. Agaba is better than me, in my honest opinion, on this podcast. This is how I feel. He's stuck up as it is. I think he's a better podcaster than me. Okay? But let me tell you something though, right? When I left and went to Dubai, he went viral. But here's the situation. I'm not threatened by Agaba. If the guy is great, why not let him be great? Okay? And I'm going to say this. If this was a podcast that was based in this country, we wouldn't have Agaba Tumasime swinging the bat like this. Which is sad because he's already been here this long. What does that tell you? It tells you that things are fucked up in this part of the world, on this continent, because you got to do something. You're holding back the people who are actually great, who can do things. So my question is this, and it's the truth, and it's for everybody that works here in this brand. Kenganda REPAT podcast is good because of what? It's the talent that's here, from the editors, from Joan, and then the training that we have done and let people develop the business and help us get to where we're at. I didn't do this by myself, but it's for people who have the potential. Let these people build the country. And it's almost like, you're threatened. Here's what I find out about being threatened by somebody's ability or somebody's talent. I told Agaba too, I told Babaluku the same thing. So, man, you guys got some amazing things. And Agaba on this podcast, in this subject matter, he can weigh in on things in ways I cannot understand. I'm learning myself. But why are we holding somebody like that back? It doesn't make sense. It's stupid and it's silly. And the thing is, it needs to be challenged, because if whoever the powers may be, because Museveni said you need to come back, the Sierra Leone, you need to come back, Ghana want to come back. Here's the problem you're going to have. I don't see Africa in the same way that you see it. And I'm not going to see it that way. I'm going to see, if you ask me to come back, are you asking me to see it the same way that you see it? Because I'm not going to see it that way. I'm going to see it based on merit. I don't care what tribe you're from. That don't matter to me. I don't care if you Ankole or if you're Acholi or if you're from Buganda. Can the person swing the bat? That's all I care about. Are they good? Yes. You can be purple. I don't care. As long as you're African, though. But you got to be African purple. But you got to be good. And what I'm seeing here is Uganda has some of the most talented people that personally I've come across, because black people got it like that. But we're holding back our development. How many people have good ideas? We used to go to farms. Remember that? You have guys we would talk about on farms that have apps. We would interview them. And the guy would say, this app is great for who? X, Y, and Z. We won't call the names. But it's not approved because we're not X, Y, and Z person. And I'm here today on the REPAT podcast to say, if you're good and if I could help you in any way, it can't be all the time, but if you can swing the bat, as the diaspora, we got to help you. Here's something controversial. I'm going to say this and it's going to get me canceled. But here's the thing. The diaspora cannot integrate fully into the local business communities. It doesn't work. Because those people are going to stymie your progress. You have to take a note, and I hate to say this, in order to help our people on the ground, we cannot integrate into the same system that is here, because then we won't get the development. Because the way things are in Africa that I have seen, somebody has to suffer for somebody else to stay at the top. I'm not under that belief. I believe that there is opportunities out there in this great country, in Kenya, in Rwanda, in this community, that we have not invested in, that we can do more. Let's invest more into our people, into our diaspora. We have a Ugandan diaspora that is largely forgotten about. And I'm African-American, but I must speak up for them. We have Ugandans that are in Dubai. We have Ugandans that are in Britain. We have Ugandans in America and Canada that have seen things differently and they want change.
Yeah.
And then I've seen countries in Africa, Sierra Leone, catering to African Americans, catering to Caribbeans, and then having a problem with the Sierra Leones outside in the diaspora. What is so much of the hatred for those who are like you from the diaspora, but you're favoring us who don't have a relationship here in Africa? Something wrong with that. I'm sorry, it is. It's not right. And as African Americans, we got to speak up for the brothers who are here and are left, even if we might not get the parity back, but we got to be truthful. What about them? Don't they deserve to have change? Because I'm going to tell you this, as African American, I shouldn't have this podcast here. But it speaks to the narrative that we have people who don't want to either feel comfortable doing it here, because a lot of folks don't even feel comfortable coming back and doing things. I'm crazy like that. But most people are crazy. They fear it. So when we have our brothers here, we need to empower our people to develop the people in the community, because we're missing out on more talent, more tax money, more things that can help develop the country. I believe that Museveni is a person that said he wants those things to happen. From people that know him, he's adamant about that. I believe that personally, to a certain degree. This is what these guys want. So then why are we not doing that? But you can't do it with talent, with no talent. Kenganda is a great company, in my honest opinion, because of talent. Everybody's talented. If you can't sit here on the couch next to me if you can't swing the bat, you can't do it. If you're not good, I won't put you here. But we need to push our people to the next level, because what now when they see a Gaba clip, when they see Jonita, look at all the comments, Jonita, she's so smart. Rachel's so smart. Jonita looks so nice. Those are people who might be interested in choosing this as their next destination. But where is going to be the transparency and letting our people swing the bat? It's not just the diaspora that should be developing. Our people here should be developing too. But the problem is that you see here, it's holding things back. And so the diaspora cannot integrate fully into a system like that. You need to have your systems even before you come here. African Americans, Ugandan Americans, whatever. Start your, what do they call these groups that they develop money?
Circle.
Start it in America first. Don't wait till you get here. Start those things there. Come here with leverage. Make them respect you. Because when you come by yourself, you don't get that much respect. I'm going to tell the truth. They're not going to respect you. Start that stuff. If you want to come to Uganda, go to Uganda embassies in D.C., wherever they're at. And we need to make these embassies do the work. We had a horrible experience here with the Nigerian embassy. That was a whole other thing. I'm going to call it out. Yes, we did. Okay, it was terrible. We need our people, the Ugandan American community are doing a good job. The British community, the African American community, the diaspora needs to set up these things as a groups before they even step here. Start talking now. So when you come here, they know that you're serious. Like they respect the Chinese and the Indians. Because if you come here by yourself, not knowing nobody, and you're going to get held back. You need the numbers. African Americans need to have numbers. Ugandan Americans got to have numbers. Ugandan British got to have numbers. Caribbeans got to have numbers. You ain't got to all be in the same group. You can be in separate groups or in the same one big group, but you got to have transparency in numbers. Then force these people to change how they do things because you can't do it by yourself. I've been here. I'm going to tell you, you can't do it by yourself. And if they don't like it, it's the truth. I'm sorry. That's why you have all the land scams in Ghana. You need to force these governments to protect you and your investment. And you got to do it where you're at. Then you start coming. So I will tell you that. Start linking up. If you want to come to Uganda, link up with people that's already Ugandans, that's there, that know the system, and have power when you want to do things. I heard in the WhatsApp group somebody wants to build a school.
Yeah, they are building a school.
That's how you get credibility here. Productivity is the name of the game everywhere in the world. And I've done things here for free and still not gotten some respect. I want to say one thing here too. Don't expect parity from Africans.
Yeah.
I'm just going to be real. I hate to say that. This is not all Africans. But you're not going to get the same level of parity most of the time, in my experience. And that's okay. Even with whites or whatever, you're not going to get parity. We as a diaspora got to stop looking for parity from continental Africans in their systems. We need to start having parity for ourselves as a diaspora. Recognize we have a different experience. We have a different view of Africa. And it's us as diaspora to give parity to each other. Stop looking at it from here because most continental Africans have been abused by the systems that have been. So parity might not be there all the time. And we get upset when it's not there. But as a Gaba, I have a different requirement of him than I have from somebody that lives here. He got to give me parity because he know better. So the diaspora, I can hold you accountable. No, you're going to be on time because you know better. What you talking about? And then one day he did it to me. He's like, look, I was late one day. He's like, look, bro, I keep time like the white man. Hey, I was like, okay. I had to give him a little bit of extra money that day, right? Because he held me accountable. And it's just true. The diaspora need to be seeking parity from each other. Stop trying to seek parity from what's here. And then at that point, we can show our brothers and sisters, and we got to train. I'm going to say this about a lot of things I'm seeing in Uganda as far as the education in the private sector. There's a lack of, don't help me realize a lack of training. So you're wanting a person to do a job. You're the boss. A lot of people here that are bosses are highly glamorized. I'm the boss. I don't need to talk to my staff. There's a level of people between it. Me, I'm hands-on. I'm in the office. I'm teaching. I'm planning. I'm in the actual grind with everybody else every day. If it's carrying equipment, I'll carry that too. The generator, I'll carry that too, if I need to. You know. Now, at some time, I'll tell you to go get the Jumi if I need some wine. I'm gonna send you out there. But you know, we need to understand that we need to train our people what works and incentivize them. You see, and that comes the diaspora need to understand the challenges you're going to have with the private sectors. There's not a lot of rules here in the private. And don't make it bad. It's opportunities like crazy. But the diaspora has to invest in each other, come together, learn how to work together, then start trying to do things as a group. If it's 5, fine. If it's 10, fine. If it's 25 hours a month, fine. But start as a group. And let's mitigate those things as a group. If we start fighting as a group of the diaspora, let's fight as a diaspora and sell it out. But then we can help the continental brothers that got the talent. Hey, when I leave this company, I'm not going to be the CEO. It's going to be a continental African being a CEO of Kenganda. And I'm going to be somewhere, I don't know, I might be dead and gone, but whatever. But we have to have these rules of engagement. And you can't do it if you integrate into the local system here all the way, because you're not going to understand it and it's not going to look right. It's the truth.
Yeah.
I'm sorry for that rant. I had to get my gob on.
It's okay. I actually want to pick Agaba's mind. What do you think about the statement O'Shea made about how the diaspora cannot fully integrate with the local businesses?
So yeah, I think if you remember, some episodes ago, we had a conversation around how it was difficult for, diaspora and investors, entrepreneurs, business people to find the right relationships with people here on the ground and how they need to segregate themselves. I think to some degree that is absolutely very, very valid. You're always going to need like let's call it a Sherpa, right?
Yes.
So if you're climbing the Himalayas, if you want to climb Mount Everest, you need a Sherpa. You need a guy who's going to put your backpack on his back and take you to the top of the mountain. And so I think in a lot of cases, what a diasporan investor, entrepreneur needs is they need their Sherpa. You don't necessarily need to fully integrate 100% of your business with the local community, because you are going to need to establish systems, policies, and procedures that you are comfortable with.
There you go.
You're going to need to govern your business and the way that your business operates on a daily basis according to your principles and values, which may not necessarily match with what you find on the ground in the country that you're entering. But you're going to need somebody to help you navigate those nuances. You're going to have somebody navigate the technicalities of how to work within this system. I have a cousin whose business title is Tenderpreneur, right? And her business model is she knows the tender system extremely well. She knows what to do. She knows the language to use. She knows where to file the paperwork. She knows how to get these big deals, these big tenders. So what she does is she provides her company as a resource to foreign investors or foreign companies, be they of Asian, Indian, what have you, nationality. If they want to apply for a tender and they know very well that they don't know this system here, they apply through her. And it could be a deal worth $300,000. It could be a deal worth $3 million. She gets her cut and she gets her piece simply by helping them navigate the bureaucracies of this system. And that's how she thrives as being a tenderpreneur. Once the tender is issued, she gets her piece and she moves on with her life. So, there's a lot of that maneuvering that takes place, I think, that people can benefit from if you're smart. But I'll say one final thing, and to echo Rachel's point about how ridiculous it was when you were applying for passports and whatnot. Let me tell you something. I live a life where I am happy to be among the demographic of people who have a Gamba Nogu.
Oh, okay.
Let me tell you something.
Let the people know a Gamba Nog is someone.
A Gamba Nogu
someone you
is,
know in a bigger office.
Yeah, you have the
is
plug.
a Gamba Nog.
When you want to hand your phone to somebody and be like, here, talk to this person.
Yeah.
Gamba Nogu.
Yeah.
So this
Or like
person,
when you get to that
if you're
office.
frustrating me, O'Shea, all I gotta do is hand you my phone. Gamba Nogu. Whoever this person is on the phone is gonna set you straight.
Okay.
Help Agaba get whatever the he wants and do
Yeah.
it expeditiously.
Okay.
That's what a Gamba Nogu is. And so from the time when I was young, having had, uncles who were ministers and, people in my family who were in positions of power, my parents were the beneficiaries of that. If we were flying into the country, we got to pass through the VIP. If we were flying out of the country, we got to pass through the VIP, right? If I go to the ministry of whatever today, there's a guy in that ministry I can call. Imagine my passport, my current Uganda passport, my blue passport. I applied for that passport on March 1st, 2022. I got that passport on March 3rd.
Gabs, you need to share some of those
2022.
contacts.
Right? My wife applied for the same passport, but she decided that she was too proud to go the Gamba Nogu route. It took her 2.5 months to get her blood clot passport.
She wanted to trust the country, the system.
Yeah, and I told her, next time I offer you the hookup, please do not respectfully decline because you want to become amongst the rank and file citizens of this country. Yeah. So the point that I'm making is this, if you have the hookup, use it.
Yeah, I get it.
Use it.
Yeah.
Use it to your full advantage. It might feel a little bit slimy in the moment, but
it works.
It works.
Yeah.
And you slide right through.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Preacher Matt, Do you have something else?
No, I just want to say, like, of course, I don't want to romanticize the private sector because, listen, I'm living here. I love it here. And I know it could seem like, I have a level of frustration in some of the stuff. But that's just me being honest and being very straightforward. The reality is I see Africa different than most people do. Maybe even the diaspora here. And my version of what I believe that it should be is how I interpret it from my own understanding. Just like how most immigrants look at America and they interpret it in their own understanding. So I believe that in the way that I'm going, it works. That is why this podcast is so active. There's no podcast in Africa or even America that could put out these many episodes at this level if you don't understand it in the way that I do. So my way works of what I feel this should be. So now I just shouldn't have to come and tell you that my way works as productivity. Clearly you see that it works. And then you have some level of problem with it. And let's say you're trying to stymie the progress. I'm not saying that this is the thing here, but in certain aspects, and we do it on the Pan-African Dating Show. We do it here. The situation I want to tell you is don't be discouraged. There's a level of stymieing. There's a level of being slow, and it's not really personal. We could take it personal. This is not really personal towards me.
It's not.
It's just even to Ugandans, it's like that, as you said, his wife. So how do you speed things up? The diaspora has to be its own spending power to speed it up.
Yep.
Its own private sector. And this podcast grows, I hate to say it, it's not because of the country here. We are diaspora based. Our people support what we do. So we already know we have the opportunity with that. So we have to force the change from outside in. And we are a bigger contributor to Africa than the Chinese. That's the fact. I think the money is going directly to the people and not to the government. But whatever the case is, the people that are bringing change to these institutions in the private sector are us. And that's where the biggest growth is. But you got to have rules of engagement to catch up. So that's all I want to say. Be aware of that if you can, as a tip. You're an African-American, Ugandan American, whatever. People have an interest in the country. I think these groups should start getting together and just meeting up. Of course, you have scammers everywhere, but just meeting up as a community wherever you're at. Let's say if you have a group in Philadelphia, if you're coming from New York, Baltimore, whatever, you should all make a situation to meet up. Start having events and doing things like that. Then as that group, you will have more power when you want to approach this country, when you want to do things. People will respect you more. Your process will become easier because you're a bigger block. Instead of trying to do things individually here. It's hard to do things individually in a place you don't understand. So you need a community behind what you do. Build the community around you and what your interests are. And of course, you'll fight amongst yourself, and that's fine. But you're not going to be able to do it. Everybody else does Africa like this. So why are you the only person trying to move here by yourself and your 2 kids or whatever else, and you have no help? Get involved in communities, and then you have more power as a community. The diaspora has to do that. Then you come here. Then you go back and work on your community. You save your money. You guys have, those SACOs. You could put $30 a month, $50 a month, and things should be able to be developing on the ground with somebody that maybe they want to stay or somebody that's whatever. And then when you come back, you see always development in the project. Then you're able to move here slowly, but slowly and slowly and slowly. That's how it works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for that. This was a great episode. I know I say that every time, but because there's so much to learn, but this was an amazing one.
What did Rachel got to say?
Yeah, I just want to say that I've learned a lot today, but I just want to say, going back to my point of education system, like if we want to see changes in these occurrences, we need to start at the root. We can even start locally in our own homes. Those of you who have children who are parents in any category, aunties or whatever, the pieces of practices we see from other cultures, like she's from America, the values of an entrepreneur, like America, organizational skills like German, or we've talked about Japan, the time and respect, and then re-educate the workforces, introduce these standardized principles. It's going to change a lot, because how are we going to compete on a religion and global scale if this is how we do? How are we going to improve our economies if this is
Well said.
mediocrity? Is the joke. Like,
Well said. Thank you so much, Gabs. Where can the people find you? Or you had something to say?
No, I was just going to say, if you're going somewhere unfamiliar, figure out how the system works and then figure out how to work the system.
Yep.
Oh, if
Period.
you can't beat them, join
Maybe not
them.
necessarily beat them, join them, but
Yeah.
there's many ways of working the system.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me say that. You don't necessarily have to play the same game that everybody else does in order to be able to work the system, but figure out how the system works, and then you'll figure out how to work the system.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Where can they find you?
Follow me at Master Gabs. Just follow me at Master Gabs.
And the podcast.
Allergic to Average podcast on YouTube.
Yeah.
Check out the channel. Appreciate all the support, all of the followers and fans from Kenganda who have supported my content on Allergic to Average as well. I appreciate that. Thank you so much and continue to do so.
Oh, don't message O'Shea. But if you have something you'd like to share with us, email us at teamkenganda@gmail.com. And you can also follow us on all our social media pages at Kenganda Nation. Also, subscribe to the Pan African Dating Show. See you guys next time.